Howdy folks, and welcome to my Magicka Sorcerer PvP build. Magicka Sorcerers in PvP are extremely dangerous opponents. They are easy to play, fun to play, they have fantastic sustain, good survivability, and on top of that, some serious damage. So this is a Dark Elf Sorcerer. I put 50 points into Magicka and 14 points into health, which gives me 33.7k Magicka, 30.8k health and 20k stamina. The spell damage is 3.8k, spell crit 16.4, and the Magicka recovery is 1573. Also, the health recovery is 1654, which is fantastic. I'm using the Atronach Mundus Stone and spring-loaded infusion. So the first set that I'm using, if we can call this a set, is the Gaze of Sithis. This is a mythic item that gives you 3.3k max health, 1k health recovery, 4k armor, but it also reduces your block mitigation down to 0, which means that no matter how hard you're trying to block, it will do no good. But as a Magicka Sorcerer in PvP, you do not really block that much. This is a heavy headpiece, and I'm also using medium Balorg's arm cops. Heavy and medium to get the most out of the Undaunted Metal passive. That gives you 2% max health, stamina and Magicka per type of armor that you're wearing. And this gives me 129 weapon and spell damage. The set that I'm using on my body is Brightthroat's Boast. This is from Murkmire. You can go and farm it yourself, or you can buy it from guild stores. This gives you maximum Magicka, more maximum Magicka, Magicka recovery, and while you have a drink buff active, your maximum Magicka is increased by 2000 and your Magicka recovery by 133. And this is the reason why I'm using spring-loaded infusion, because spring-loaded infusion is a tri-stat drink. This gives you 4.2k max health and 3.8k max Magicka and stamina. On my back bar, I'm using the Maelstrom's Perfected Restoration Staff. This is actually the one time that I recommend getting the Perfected version, because the Perfected version adds 526 critical chance, and when your regeneration critically strikes, you restore 550 Magicka. So having more crit chance from the Perfected version is actually extremely beneficial. I'm using the Sorcery Draining Poison on the back bar. This inflicts minor cowardice to your targets and grants you minor sorcery, reducing their weapon and spell damage by 215 and increasing your spell power by 10% for 3.5 seconds. It also drains Magicka from your targets, increasing the cost of their Magicka abilities by 10% and restores 238 Magicka to you per second for 3.5 seconds. This is there to help you with sustain and more damage. Now, the set on my front bar is something different. And that set is Drogerkin's Grip. You can get this from Unhallowed Grave. And this set gives you maximum Magicka, offensive penetration, which is absolutely fantastic, Magicka recovery, and dealing direct damage to an enemy places a ghostly curse on your enemy for 6 seconds. Cursed enemies take 595 extra damage from all your damage abilities. This effect can occur once every 9 seconds, so there is a 3-second cooldown. I'm using sharpened Inferno Staff with a weapon damage glyph on the front bar, and 3 pieces of jewelry, all infused with spell damage glyphs. Now for the skills. On my front bar I'm using Streak, which is fantastic escape tool, and the reason why you do not really care about the 0 block mitigation from the Gaze of Sithis. This deals some good damage, and it also stuns enemies if you streak through them. The next skill, Endless Fury. This is your execute, but the good thing about this skill is that you can actually start your attack by using this skill, because it deals shock damage immediately, 4k shock damage immediately, and if the enemy falls to or below 20% health within 4 seconds of being struck, an explosion deals additional 14,818 shock damage to them and 2.7k shock damage to other enemies nearby, but you care mostly about the primary target. So if you start your attack with this skill and you manage to get the enemy or your opponent down to 20% or less within 4 seconds, you don't have to cast it again, it will automatically hit for almost 15k. And it also restores 4.8k Magicka when the enemy dies. Next skill, Haunting Curse. This deals fantastic damage. Curse an enemy with a destructive rune, dealing 13.4k magic damage to the target and 5.2k magic damage to all other nearby enemies after 3.5 seconds. But the curse will also continue to haunt the enemy and explode a second time, dealing the same amount of damage to the primary target and nearby enemies after additional 8.5 seconds. So this is like use it and forget it kind of skill, and it hits like a truck. Next skill, Crystal Frags. You use this when it procs, and this just deals insane amount of damage. Your primary spammable or primary skill that you're using is Crushing Shock. This deals 3.1k flame damage, 3.1k frost damage, and 3.2k shock damage. Enemies hit while casting are also interrupted, set off balance, and stunned for 3 seconds, which is fantastic. A free stun in PvP is always nice. My ultimate is Ice Comet. This deals 17.5k frost damage when it hits. It also knocks enemies down and stuns them for 2 seconds, reducing their movement speed by 50%. After the impact, enemies in the target area take 4.5k frost damage every 1 second for 11 seconds. So this hits like a train, stuns enemies, knocks them down, reduces their movement speed, and after the initial hit they take serious damage over time, which is always nice. On my back bar I'm using the Hardened Ward. This gives you 14.4k damage shield for 6 seconds. I'm also using Harness Magicka. This gives you another 10.5k shield for 6 seconds, and while active, whenever the shields absorb damage, you restore 195 Magicka. Each piece of light armor worn increases the Magicka restored by 32%. So this is like this makes you nearly unkillable. You've got 2 shields running on you. This shield provides you with some sustain as well, and that is just brilliant. Dark Conversion is the sustain tool. You will run out of Magicka every now and then. You use this to convert stamina to health, 9k health, and 3.6k Magicka instantly, an additional 2.4k Magicka over 20 seconds. So this is basically equivalent of 120 more or additional magic recovery. Boundless Storm. This gives you 6k resistances, major expedition for 4 seconds, and it deals 800 shock damage every 1 second for 30 seconds, which is always useful. Rapid regeneration. This is your primary heal, and that's why you use the Maelstrom's Perfected Resto Staff. So every time this critically strikes, you restore some Magicka. And as you can see, this heals for 23k health over 5 seconds. There is a caveat. This does not always target you. So unfortunately, you cannot guarantee that you will get the heal. But if you do target somebody else, just use it again until it hits you. The ultimate life giver. This is the oh shit button. This heals you for 11,430 every 1 second for 5 seconds. And when you activate this ability, you automatically cast Regeneration, Blessing of Protection, and Steadfast Ward at no cost. This will update based on which morph of each ability you have taken. So I'm using Rapid Regeneration, Combat Prayer, and Healing Ward. So when you use this ultimate, which is extremely cheap, 106 ultimate, you cast all these 3 at the same time, basically for free. When we look at the champion points, this is where the green tree actually matters. I'm using Gifted Rider. This gives me 10% faster horse. War Mount. This removes all mount stamina costs outside of combat. Rationer, 30 minutes to the duration of any food or drink. And Steed's Blessing, 20% faster movement speed outside of combat. In the blue tree, I'm using Ironclad. This reduces damage taken by direct damage attacks. Wrathful Strikes, this one here. This gives me 165 weapon and spell damage, but only to the damaging abilities, not to heals. If you feel like you need more resources, instead of this, you can use Arcane Supremacy. This gives you more max Magicka, but slightly less damage. Deadly Aim increases your damage done with single target attacks. Master at Arms increases your damage done with direct damage attacks. In the red tree, Boundless Vitality, more health. Fortified, more armor. Sustained by Suffering, this increases your health, Magicka, and stamina recovery by 150 if you are under the effects of a negative effect. And in PvP, you're constantly under some negative effects. And this doesn't necessarily have to be like the status effects, like burning, concussed, or chilled. This applies to all AoEs, dots, anything that affects you negatively gives you 150 health, Magicka, and stamina recovery. And Pain's Refuge. This reduces your damage taken by 2% for every 2 negative effects active on you, up to a maximum of 20%. As I have mentioned, there are 2 versions of this build. The previous one was for CP-enabled campaigns, Imperial City or Battlegrounds, and this one is for no CP. I'm still using the Achenak Mundus Stone and Spring-Loaded Infusion. My maximum Magicka is now sitting at 38k, maximum health at 27k, maximum stamina at 20k. My Magicka recovery is 1382, and my health recovery took a big hit. It's now sitting at 680. The spell damage is pretty respectable, 3.6k, and spell crit 19.4%. I'm using One Piece Valkyrie Scoria. which is heavy, and one piece Balorg. This is medium. This gives me more penetration, this gives me more weapon and spell damage, and heavy, medium to get the most out of the Undaunted Metal again. On my body I'm using Amber Plasm. This is from Ruins of Mazatoon and gives you maximum Magicka, crit chance, weapon and spell damage, and 240 Magicka, stamina and health recovery. I'm also using Crafty Elfique. This set gives you an enormous amount of Magicka. 38,000. These two sets work perfectly fine in no CP campaigns, and since I'm wearing one piece Valkin and one piece Balorg, this will work as well. I'm still using the Sorcery Draining Poison on my back bar, and the Resto Staff is powered and Inferno Staff is sharpened, again with weapon and spell damage glyph. The skills are the same: Streak, Endless Fury, Haunting Curse, Crystal Frags, Crashing Shock and Ice Comet. On the back bar, Hardened Ward, Hardness Magicka, Dark Conversion, Boundless Storm, Rapid Regeneration and Life Giver. So this was my PvP Magicka Sorcerer build. Both versions, either CP or no CP, have great survivability, fantastic sustain, they hit like a truck, and are extremely fun to play. So go out there, kick some butt. I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.